Dan is not
Check,
there.
check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, everybody?
Can hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. Um, and congratulations, Blink. You sniped the first comment from Dan Trader.
That's a victory. That does not happen often. Dan is usually the first person here, but Dan might have been starting his weekend early, with Memorial Day weekend coming up. But nice job getting that first comment. And welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap, everyone. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. May talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. Want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. Bink, what do you win? Acknowledgement. We'll come up with a better prize, but that's all I got right now. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. Been a top step performance coach since June of 2023, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for 2 years. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience, some knowledge, and help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Let's just get right into it. Let us know how you did to end the week. Were you up on the week, down on the week? Anything that you learned for the week? And we'll just get right into the markets. So we did have some news last night. As far as planned news goes, we had some today as well. One second, let me turn off these notifications. And we had Canadian retail sales come in 0.8%, expected was 0.7. We had US new home sales come in at 0.743 million, forecast was 0.695 million. We had some speakers as well, but again, the unplanned news is moving the markets more than the planned news. And we heard some comments about tariffs early this morning, and the president looking to place tariffs on specific companies, namely Apple, for any phones that are made outside of the United States. He did say later on in the day today that if they start to build factories in the United States and create phones here, make their phones here, then no tariffs. Uh, he also did say that the EU was extremely difficult to work with the tariff deal right now, which is a little bit of a you know diversion from what we heard last week, where we were supposed to be making deals with the EU. So uh, tariff headlines still moving the markets. The most volatile, I think. Outside of that, kind of stay pretty range bound. Anything else that you have on the news, Coach?
Hey there, but that Canadian economic news there. Other than that, the only news really was another tweet, another tantrum, and another break. Other than that, that's really the only news that really affects the market, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we are going into a long weekend. So interesting going into a long weekend. We do have Fed Powell speaking on a Sunday, May 25th. I'm not sure if that's a what that's about, but he's speaking this weekend. So I would keep it. I'm actually not even going to say that. Don't keep an eye on the headlines this weekend. Enjoy your time off the charts. So let's talk about the markets, and then we'll get everyone going for their long weekend. There's 35 different markets we can trade with top step accounts to the downside. Today we had corn down 0.86%, the NASDAQ down 1.1%, and micro Bitcoin futures down 2.4% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had natural gas up 1.92%. Gold up 1.96%. Shout out to Dakota. Nice trade last night. And copper, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 3.86%. To talk about our big four, we had crude oil up 0.8%. The S&P is down 0.77%. We already talked about gold and the NASDAQ, but gold up 1.96 and the NASDAQ down 1.07%. I have a weekly chart of the NASDAQ up here, Coach Paul. What are we looking at?
Still pretty solid, even after today's break. What's that low of that wick?
That low, that wick is the monthly VWAP actually. Uh, but it is also 50 moving average on the weekly, which is at 20,719.
So into a 3-day weekend. I mean, the weekly has not been damaged. Looks more like a correction, but with any little tweak. Interesting though, the 20 is closing under the 50. Um,
It's the first time that's
I
happened in a long time.
I can't. Yeah, I didn't think that was allowed to happen. Uh, whoa, look at that.
When's the last time it happened?
Look,
2022,
22.
in April of 2022.
So that one gives me pause, but hey, I think we're in a like when we were talking yesterday. I feel this market was heavy. Um, but there's support here. Next week, if we settle under this little structure, hmm, we could have accelerating downside. But as of now, the future's all um, opinion. The present is the fact, and the fact is we're holding on here.
Holding on, we did talk about, where that 50% of of last week's range was, that 2830. All of that happened today. If we look at the daily, that test, we didn't get down about that 200 moving average on the daily right there as well, 20,800s. We will see. Next week should be very interesting, but an inside week this week. And let's go down to a shorter time frame. Let's take a look at what happened for the day. Extended trading hours. Pretty quiet last night. Was it quiet last night? Yeah,
Um,
fairly quiet.
if you feel till the morning,
Right.
till someone woke up angry.
So pretty quiet overnight session. Not a lot here. But like Coach Paul just said, once we got the tweets about the tariffs, we can see when the market really started to get going. And it happened pretty quick, right? This is an hour here, and a 2% down move in the Nasdaq, and that was pretty much the range for the day today, bouncing off of that 200 moving average on the daily down at 20,800s. It did it the Nasdaq way, where it ran it by 80 points before it recovered. But a pretty strong sell off here. Anybody in the chat catch that move? I know I wasn't awake during this time. I had a late start to the morning, but big spike of volume. The market responds with another spike of volume to the downside. I think maybe after they digested what was going on here. Uh, Anything you got on this, Coach Paul?
Yeah, look at that big buying spike.
That is the New York session open.
So someone got a that was huge buying um that held for the rest of the day. Um Still evidence that buying the dip is in, but and it held. In my swing trading, I was short from last night, and I had to sit there and watch this. So I knew that volume came in, but I have to be patient. But in a day trade, we broke out. We broke that range. VWAP left. That was a decent trade. Um,
Yeah, decent trade to the upside.
but it did not finish well.
No.
Um, we could not take the tweet candle out.
Do we have to frame another one?
No, we
Well,
just couldn't. I had to watch that on my other. I mean, I just don't. Like I said, this market still feels heavy. Um, and we've had that long discussion. I think on Wednesday, we're in a trade war. Rationality can leave in a hurry. Um, 3-day weekend. Uh, God knows what can happen. But
Bitcoin's going to move.
technically,
That's what's going to happen.
what's interesting? Bitcoin. We'll get into that being one of the biggest downside today. I was long that, and it bounced off the 200 twice. We'll go over that later, but still, I was shocked when you said that because wasn't that big of a down move for
Right.
Bitcoin. It was just an opportunity to buy, I guess. Um, but other than that, what else do you have in there?
The only other thing I want to talk about, and we talked about this during the opening call with Hogue, but if you switch your charts over to regular trading hours, Coach Paul, I know you like to do this so we can see just the New York session open. A lot of times, what could happen with traders is, you look and you're saying, "Oh man, overnight the market is down so much it needs to continue." We talked about this morning, and I said to Hogue, if the volume for New York steps in and continues to sell, then there's a lot more room down in this market. But if it doesn't, and maybe the market kind of already digested and had its response, then we're looking for this gap to fill in regular trading hours, right? Where we know overnight is going to be a lower volume session. So looking somewhere towards that 50% of this range to hold, especially when we, start to get uh, shorter time frame signals that the market wants to rally. We didn't close the gap fully, traded to within 50% of it. Uh, and we rejected from there. The S&Ps did something very similar. Have that gap in the S&P, tried to trade up and fill it, couldn't fill the gap, and rejected from there. So I think it is helpful because you could come into the day that we kept coming into the day when the New York session started. The Nasdaq was down almost 2%. I think seeing that may sometimes, uh, and I said it this morning, right? Sometimes that gap is going to continue, sometimes it's going to fill. But seeing the gap, seeing the price action visually from overnight could bias your trades where you're looking for shorts here when that was not the trade today. Like the trade to we had a 1% up move from the low of the New York trading session, which I think most of our traders trade. Uh, Ben Gelfman says, "You and Dakota talked about process over process, and it's to the truth. I explained nicely. I might be missing a message from you, Ben. I don't see it. I don't know if you posted something on Twitter or something. But I think I'm missing a message from you. But yeah, Dakota talks about process over profits all the time. We talk about it here, not focusing on how much money you're making, but the process in it all. And I'm kind of going through that with my trading right now. Coach Paul and I were talking when we got before we got on in the green room that there's a process that I'm working on implementing and executing mechanically, and it's a process, right? Not focusing on the money, or I shouldn't be focusing on the money, and it's just clicking the button when it says to, and that's ultimately I think where we want to be with traders. Money's an emotional thing, and it can be an emotional thing. But if you focus on executing a plan, uh, the money we make comes after. Go ahead, coach.
And that process, your edge takes place over time. So when you understand that each trade, if you're following a process, every trade doesn't have to be a winner, or it's not the end of the world if it's a loser. That's really the core of what process over profit is. That's where you when you review, and I'm starting to spout about keeping a journal, because when you go and review that, you understand what really hurts are the trades you didn't take that you should have. Because once you start thinking just process, you can start removing having to make money or not losing money. So, um, journaling really helps that.
Definitely does. Definitely does. Shout out to Samson. Finally did it. Taking my first big payout today. Been trading since November. Blew my first two XFAs, but staying patient and trading well in this one, and it is paying off. Samson, it's process over profits, right? You focused on a process. You identified something that caused you to blow your first two XFAs. But the focus on the process, coach, helps make adjustments when necessary, right? That's why you're talking about journaling,
Yep.
and then you can get to a payout, right? You might not be far off from the goals that you want to achieve. There might be small tweaks, right? A lot of times we think it's like this major thing that needs to happen, and it's not. And Samson, I'm curious, what changed for you in order to get to that point, But nice job. And if you're taking a payout today, going into a nice holiday weekend, enjoy it. Don't spend it all in one place. But congrats. That's awesome. Anything else you got on the equities, coach?
You know what? What about Rusty?
Rusty.
The Rusty Nail. I don't know if young guys have ever had a Rusty Nail. That was an old time drink. Impress your bartender by ordering that one time.
What's in it?
Um, um, Lots of booze, brandy and whiskey and something else. It's a heavy drink. I've had it before. I don't know exactly. I get
I'm looking at it. Yeah,
two
that
of them. Yeah, there you go. What is in it?
it says whiskey and drambuie, which I have no idea.
Drambuie.
I have no idea what
Yeah,
that is.
Drambuie. It's a Scottish liqueur. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's yeah, Scotch and Drambuie. There it is. Um,
All right,
that'll get a smile on your face.
there you go.
All right. So I'm sorry we lost track. It's
Somebody's thinking
Friday
about the
before.
weekend. Somebody's
Yeah,
thinking about
somebody's.
their drink for the weekend.
So let's get back to the old Rusty. Went still has not gone over the 200 moving average. Um, Had a nice wick there off the 50, but not it's no. I'll leave it to you. Is it? Remember the Rusty is 2,000 stocks. It's a broader based average, and the broader base is not rallying like the others. Is that's a problem? It's
Yeah,
concentrated on a few stocks.
yeah. And I know we were talking about this potentially had to play catch up, but nice rejection here off the lows, off that 50-day moving average. But this is kind of still stuck on the mat right now. Ben, put it in the Coach J chat. Put the link in the Coach J chat if you have something you want to post. Uh, nice recovery from the Russell as well, but we're still inside the tweet candle, which is going to be the newest anchor point we have until we
Yeah,
get another one.
someone put that up there. It's the newest candle of your life.
Yep. Until we get another one on Monday or Tuesday, actually, since Monday we are closed. All right, let's take a look at gold. Take a look at gold on the weekly. Couldn't break it. They tried, but they couldn't. Ending the week on the highs, 33.60. Shout out to Hogue. Weekly kickoff level, weekly kickoff high, 33.60. Uh, guy's good at what he does. But what are we looking at here on the weekly, Coach Paul?
Still in the correction, but nice recovery this weekend. Um, on average volume for the week. Interesting. Um, Boy, that looks. Today when you said it, you didn't want to sell gold. I don't either. It can.
It's a
When
tough
you
trade to
said
take,
it,
man.
yeah, I just that it looks like there's another leg up coming
Yep.
on that chart. That there's nothing bearish in that. Just taking a rest.
Yeah, yeah, it looks pretty bullish. Shout out to Hogue. He took the trade. Him and I both were looking at similar things. We get different signals, but same idea. And he said, there's a short setup playing out here off of the uh, weekly kickoff high, which was pretty much the high of the day. So it was the right trade. It's just, to me, that's a hard trade to take in a market like this. But look at it, it was the right call. Right? Depending on where that stop was, you might have never gotten hit. Uh, so sometimes if a signal presents itself, you just got to take the trade that presents itself. Uh, See that high volume, just kind of J trade right at the high, right off that weekly kickoff level, right? High volume exhaustion. A lot of times we're looking at these reversals to the upside, but if we flip this chart over, it's the same thing. Volume left that range to the downside. Pretty
Boy,
nice
that
trade. It
kind
was.
of.
Go ahead.
Don't do that again. I, I was like losing my mind. What happened there?
My bad. Uh, But yeah, I mean, it was a good trade. It was to me, it was a tough trade to take, just looking at the higher time frame context. But sometimes tough trades are the best ones to take. What I will say about this trade, and we Hogan and I talked about it when he was taking it, is you know how much room is there to the downside in a market that's trending so hard, right? So you could have taken this trade, and it was a nice trade, just 20 points to the downside. But uh, we can see where that reversal happened, almost the exact opposite trade, get another high volume exhaustion and bounce back the other way. So, Ben, I got you. I can see I see your message. We'll take a look once we, you know,
Finish
we'll
my
build it
morning.
in. We'll build it into the conversation. But I appreciate you, Ben. All right. Anything else you got on gold, Coach?
Nothing to add there. It was a nice rally, though. Wow. Last night, Asia's back at it.
Asia is back at it. Last night, Dakota had a very nice long. And yeah, Ben, I got you. I got you. Uh, Dakota had a pretty nice long trade in gold. That he had to sit through a little bit of a drawdown. Had this volume spike here, uh, and look at it this way: volume left that range to the upside. Maybe you got stopped out here. Maybe you took this long because you saw price and volume leaving. This move right here may have stopped you out. Uh, the trade that you can take again if you can accept the risk. Is your stop wide enough? Dakota had a pretty wide stop on this. If you go Coach Paul 2 ATRs on a 30-minute, you wouldn't have gotten hit. Uh, but a pretty nice trade from that point. We're above the 200 moving average. Anything else you got on gold, Coach?
Yeah, buy the dip. This is not trading advice. This is advice to me. I'm talking to myself. Yeah, I'd like to buy the dips.
Buy the dip. Buy the dip. Uh, all right. Let's move over to it's a big four market, so we got to talk about it. But crude oil consolidated at the 200 moving average on the 30-minute.
Look at that.
Next
It's
market.
like, it did it. No, next market.
Next market. Please, let's take a look at micro Bitcoin because that is a market that is in the spotlight right now. In the spotlight right now. Here is last night's open in micro Bitcoin. We did see spot Bitcoin make all-time highs yesterday. The futures didn't get quite to that all-time high and rejected from there. A little bit of a pullback. We've been saying, and Coach Paul, you've been saying that Bitcoin is starting to move like the equities, maybe a little bit stronger than the equities, how it held up through April. But what are we looking at here?
Well, the white line bounced off it
Does it
once,
again?
twice, and we're at it right now. Do we go gap and go lower? Possibly. But look, was in due for a correction. Interestingly, it broke with the news, which I was surprised, considering there was a dinner last night of crypto enthusiasts. I'll say no more than that. You would think Bitcoin would have rallied, but it doesn't matter, does it? Technically, um, good chance to buy it. Little late, 3-day weekend. No, Bitcoin will open for Sunday night, won't it? I think it does.
I think it does. I think it does.
Yeah, I'll find a link to the hours.
I think it does. But yeah, let's see what happens at this 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. But again, a pretty nice market to trade. When did you guys start trading? For me, it was about 13 years ago. For Coach Paul, you start trading.
1984. I was 22 years old.
All right. So thank you for Andrew. Andrew, man.
Andrew, you're the best.
Markets open at normal time and run until about 11:45 a.m. Central Time. Make sure you read those
Except
top
for the
step emails
grains
that you get, except for the grains. Make sure you read those top step emails
and the
for
meats.
when you can trade your accounts. But for this holiday, markets are going to open at normal time and run until 11:45 a.m. Central Time. Remember, no Top Step TV on Monday, and no Sunday shows either. All right. Any other markets we want to talk about, Coach Paul? We got either 35 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on how we want to run this. Uh,
Oh, oh, let's okay. Currencies. Let's go to
Currencies.
the yen. Speaking of buying the dip,
Wow.
start last night.
Start right at the 30. It's going up.
That had urgency. It was a beautiful trade. There was no heat in that trade. And look where it finished. It's like we've seen this before. Um, yeah, with urgency. Dollar, we can't trade the dollar, so I'm not going to bother. We don't even have the chart, so the dollar chart is looking very bearish. But the yen was the strongest of the currencies. Now the yen 40-year, they have a 40-year bond. We can't show that chart, but it's exploding. Interest rates are exploding the upside, attracting capital, which strengthens the currency. But yeah, if we go to the daily,
At the daily.
broke that downtrend line earlier in the week. I believe the yen gapped open and finished near the highs. That don't happen too often. Yeah, I know that's bad English, but I meant
Yeah, that looks pretty bullish. Uh and trading made easy. Urgency. Maybe I don't know that I've seen your name in the chat before, but there's a little bit of a vocabulary we've built here.
that.
And the urgency Coach Paul is talking about is on this 30-minute chart where we had a range identified and we have VWAP, in relation to that range leaving fairly early in the session and aggressively. That is usually going to signify a trending day. Um, that's our urgency. It's not urgent to you. That's all right.
Yeah,
All right.
look at that
Any
size of that buying. That's at 11 o'clock, I think. No, that was
this one
that.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was that the tweet?
This was not. Yeah, this was a tweet. Yep, this was a tweet.
Hmm, interesting. Why that would affect the yen? Doesn't matter. I'm a technician.
But more buyers and
It was a
sellers.
trick question. There was more buyers than willing sellers. That's even better. So,
Heather, ending your week green for your brokerage account, still bad? I mean, if you ended the week green, you did something right. So celebrate that. Celebrate that. All right. Trading Made Easy says, Paul, you're a good guy.
I don't care what the other people say. I agree with you.
You are a
Um,
good guy, Paul. All right. Anything else?
Someone wants to look at ZM. You're talking about
The M or ZN?
soy meal? Uh, I see ZM1.
Yeah, ZM. Okay. Soybean meal here.
All right. Let's look at the daily. Oh, wow, what a downtrend. Um, Kind of looks like the soybeans. Broke. Yeah, it's the downtrend line like that. We broke out of, if you're a trend trader, downtrend line, we settle over it. Could did we test it again and hold it? Um, could be a breakout. Well, kind of like the soybeans, they're sideways, but these poor markets are getting beat down by tariffs. Um, hmm, Interesting. I I'll tell you what. If you're I would look at that, and it would be time to buy calls. But
Interesting. Give it some time.
if it's going to, let's look at the half hour, see if we're above the 200. And it held. There's that trend line. Boom, right back to it. But still kind of in a range. Um, Longer term, if I was a, a user of soy meal, I would definitely start hedging. But
Mm,
otherwise, it needs a little time and a little work.
go.
Someone
So
wanted to look at the 60-minute on something here. I forgot where it was.
Auntie
And
had
by
your
the
best
way,
day in a while. Good stuff. Go ahead, coach.
good to know. Someone wanted to look at it. Oh, here it is. Bitcoin on a 1 hour chart bouncing off the 200 EMA. And yeah, excuse me. I don't mention much, but I'll do consult the hourly bar. That's a that's a good one too. Um, will it hold? I would expect it to, but I don't know. It sure has proven it does. I mean, that's maybe that's where we gap open to in a place to buy. Um, but look at that,
200 moving
nice.
average on the hourly is at 106, 180 in Bitcoin. Yeah, looks like a support. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, let's get to some questions. We got some questions in the chat. Uh, could you please check copper and platinum? We'll take a look. And how do you manage your sleep as a trader? We'll answer this one. Alok, decide what sessions you want to trade during. Um, I think, especially with futures markets being 23-hour markets, it almost feels like I want to forego sleep to trade all the time. But you got to think about the quality of your decisions if you're trading nonstop. So I think identify when your best trading time normally is, and then you know balance that with life outside of the charts, right? And that includes sleep. Uh, I'm saying that as somebody who maybe doesn't sleep all the time, but I've tried to kind of narrow my focus to trading the New York session as well. But like Andrew just said, sleep. What is this sleep that you speak of? Uh, it's a real thing. I think as long as we are we're traders. I don't know if have a good one. Z Creola, have a good weekend. Enjoy your long weekend. I think as long as you can find some type of balance in your life where you're not always at your desk. We saw some traders talk about on Topstep TV today that they shout out to Josh Will, but placing a trade on your phone, setting the levels, and then just checking in on it every once in a while, but not necessarily having to be at your desk. Uh, Figure out balance. It's going to look different for every person, but it 23-hour charts is sounds like a nightmare. How do you
Well,
balance your sleep, coach?
uh, coffee and stimulants. No,
There you go.
not at all. By the way, I have worked the night shift and then traded on the floor during the day. It doesn't help. You need it. If you're going to be a trader, you need to be focused and sharp. And the more you stare at a screen, the more you trade, the worse you're going to do. Pick your time. Don't trade. I find your here. That is a really good question, by the way. If you're just staring and looking for opportunity, you're going to be tempted to find one that's not part of a trading plan.
Yep.
At least I did. And it's over time, it's going to catch up to you. There's no one successful trader said, "Well, I was up 23 hours a day." It
Every
doesn't
day.
work that way
Yeah,
every
it's
day.
you're going
I
to
mean,
make bad decisions.
you need to think like an athlete. You need to get proper sleep. You need literally. We don't talk about it enough. You need to get exercise. You need you get in the right mindset, whether it's a meditation or some type of mental um, activity that otherwise, you know what, it can be just like cocaine or a stimulant like that, where you're just and you're just doing things to act.
Right.
It's not good. So pick your, I would say, really good trading, like 4 or 5 hours. Best traders, they would find their boom, they're done. The, some of the best traders I've known do not spend much time in front of a chart. So
Why is that? Because they're limiting the amount of human error
they're
and
limiting,
and
yeah,
and poor quality decisions. We got to be honest with ourselves, right? We're not always going to make the best decisions. So the more we can limit that, the better.
and it's funny you bring it up because last month, I have been focusing on my sleep. I get, I want to get, I wasn't getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and I'm better off for it.
Nice.
It- Yeah, you can't. You need to think of yourself and treat yourself like an athlete. I mean, a world class athlete.
Yep. They sleep all the time.
Oh,
All they do is sleep.
it's yeah. It's a great question. Maybe we'll do more on that, but I don't. I can't say it enough. You would you have to go through a routine, and I'm telling you, the more you're sitting there, you tell me, Coach, how many times does that work?
Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Like if I do a trade at night for a breakout, if it doesn't happen in the first couple hours and it's not breaking out, I'm done. I don't stare at it first. So the, it's really important. Don't get caught. Think about Vegas. They don't have windows, right? They want you there all the time making what? Bad decisions
Bad
under
decisions.
pressure.
Yep. No windows, and feed you all the drinks that you want as long as you keep playing. Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is. So, great question. Focus on your sleep.
Focus on your sleep. Focus on your health, mentally, physically, financially, all of it. It all matters. All right. Sounds like a profitable business. Right, Billy. Yeah. Lock them indoors, feed them drinks, give them fun coupons, and let's see what happens. All right. Any other markets we want to talk about? We got a couple of different markets traders have asked to talk about. Let's just go copper really quick. Just decided to take off running. They said they weren't
Oh,
making any more pennies, and copper started rallying.
yeah.
Um,
Well, then zinc should have rallied. By the way, I have a whole big jar of old pennies.
oh
They're
yeah.
still worth, yeah. So I'll have to melt them down quickly.
Uh, 200 moving average here in copper on the 30-minute. Let's take a look at the daily. These alternative metals, platinum was the first one. But we talked about this tight range that these markets have been in. And even though these don't trend,
Mm,
all the time, this was a pretty tight range for them to be in. You saw the move that platinum made out of this range, and copper looks like it's the second in that line of alternative metals that wants to break out of this range. Right, we'll go back to a platinum chart really quick, where that was a pretty explosive move out of there. We came up to these highs that we talked about, and rejected off of 1100 today in platinum. Still some decent volume in this move, but let's see. But the trader did ask about copper. I don't know what got into copper today, uh,
hmm.
but some pretty
Let's
big volume there. Go ahead, coach.
um I just have ideas. This could, where did that start? What time did that start?
Uh, this big spike of volume here was 9 a.m. Central.
Huh. Was this
Huh.
hmm. Like,
It, Heather says, "Is this short covering who is actually buying going into a long weekend with all this crazy news?"
yeah,
Uh,
that's great. That's my thought. Like, go ahead, coach.
no, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who would have. That looks like a short covering move, which we've seen in copper recently.
You know, it's interesting just before that move, was that the half hour you had?
That was the half hour. Yep,
Look at that low. What do we have on that low?
200 moving average on the daily on 30 minute.
Oh, yeah, and the volume.
Oh yeah, on here.
We had J trade with
Yep.
volume. Oh wow.
Oof. I don't know who was paying attention to copper in this, but you got a nice one here. I know D's been trading it. Uh, that is a nice trade there. Once it got going, it got going. Right. This is one of those where you see it and you're just like, oh, it's up 2%. Is there somewhere that I could join this trend? Decent opportunity to. Uh,
Hmm.
he says zoom out all week. The ES did the exact same thing, pump and dump. Chauncey, fast forward. We're talking about copper. Uh, um, but yeah, it did. Right, the ES did the same thing. It was just in a range, and sold from there. I actually made my biggest trade ever with copper today. Says Pi. Uh, good stuff.
Wow. I'm glad to hear we have people trading more than just the equities. Good job.
Yeah, Coach Paul. I know one of the big things when we started doing at the buzzer, almost 2 years ago now. It seems like you talked about, there is opportunity in other places, and it's been a major focus for this session the entire time. It's like, hey, there's opportunity in other places. The money's still green if you can place a trade in them, and sometimes there are markets that are just presenting easier opportunities. I've seen a lot of traders where we have traders that had some success trading the equities today, but we also have traders who found it hard to trade the equities today and got chopped up. Um, it wasn't the greatest price action, right? Some days the equities are going to be the show and there's nothing else to look at, but then other days they can be a little bit more difficult. So shout out to you if, as a trader, you're developing a process to scan for other markets to see what's moving, and to kind of broaden your horizons a little bit, because there's a ton of opportunity out there.
Yeah, I love to hear that. You're making my weekend now. Great. Oh,
Uh,
one last thing. Bonds.
Here's the 30.
We'll be talking about the bonds every day for a long time here. There's the daily, we had a spike, but let's look at the half hour. What's that white line?
200
We
moving
got it.
average.
Yeah. We spiked above it. And oh, that was what I wanted. There's a J trade sell. I got a piece. I did got a piece of that.
Nice
Wasn't
trade.
huge, but it never recovered. Back under the 200. Um, we had a nice correction to the 200. Follow that next week. I don't think this bond market's changing personally. But look at that. When we had some big buying, they found some sellers.
Yeah, they did. Right back under that 200 moving average on the 30 minute. Uh, but bouncing off of the lows on a higher time frame, right? We're talking about multi-year lows that this market is bouncing off of. Let's see. Let us see. I think conditions are a little bit different this time around. Uh, so we'll see if this holds up here. All right. What advice can you give on doing effective back testing? Uh, be honest in the results of your back testing, right? If you're doing back testing where you're just putting on replay mode and actually placing the trades, I think that's probably the most effective once you've identified a strategy. But don't overfit positive results. I'm actually working on something like that right now, right? And when I look at the chart, by nature we're going to want to gravitate to the percentage of time where your hypothesis is right, but you can't do that because in real time it's not going to be that. So when you're back testing, right, I don't want to go, oh yeah, I had this signal here and I could have just bought it right here, and then I would have got out right here and I'm a millionaire, right? You know, consider all the times where your strategy doesn't work. And I think it's important to know exactly what your playbook looks like when it doesn't work. That opening range simple trade that we take in the NASDAQ, right? Opening range breakout trade. If I take an opening range breakout and VWAP doesn't leave the range, I've back tested it enough where I know exactly what it's going to look like when that trade doesn't work. If VWAP is flat, the trade's probably going to fail, right? And you know, there's a percentage of time that things happen, and I think being aware of the percentage of the time where it doesn't work out is just you doing your due diligence as a trader. What would you say, Coach?
I'm a big fan of. I think it's essential to back test. But the biggest thing about back testing isn't to go, oh, I'm going to take these trades, is to know what to expect.
Right,
And I did by hand during COVID. I had the time, 12 different contracts going back. I went back 6 years on 12 different on a half hour basis, and by hand. It really it really helps to know what to expect, because our front of mind is, I just want the good trades. I can't wait for them to come, and then you have no control, and then you get a drawdown, a string of losses, and you're like, I got to change this. If you do that, all that back testing is wasted.
right,
You can't. It's so you have when we talk about process over profit, you have to follow a process that you trust and because there going to come a time when you're like, this sucks. I hate this. I got to do something. I got to change it.
yep,
Oh, if someone tells you they have the perfect process, what does that mean? It only makes profits. They're
it's a
either
lie.
cheating, most in 99% they're lying. So, one of the biggest parts, and I want to emphasize this, is that back testing gives you expectations of how that beast works, because you're just not printing money.
Right,
So that's a great question. I think it's a really um, important thing to do, because you just don't know. Like I said, you don't know the future. And if you're going to follow a process, you really have to follow the process. You ask Coach Dakota, and he goes through drawdowns. He
right.
handles them well. You hear him. And by the way, the drawdowns are. I don't know how many times I've gone through. None of them have I said, "Boy, I enjoy this."
It's the worst thing ever.
Now,
No one enjoy. Yeah, it's like no, I don't. I would much rather be in a draw up.
um, um, so great question. That's the most important thing. Once you do that, when you're doing your back test, you can make adjustments, but then you got to go back from zero.
Right,
Anytime you make, no matter what adjustment, you got to go back to the start. Because we're always trying to adjust it so we don't have to go through a drawdown and we don't have to take losses. You do. When you do that, then you know what to expect.
right. Uh, right. Let's start wrapping up here. Let's see if we got any other questions in the chat. I don't see any, Jen and John, any back testing videos. I'm not gonna suggest one. It is as simple as write down what you're looking for and look at 100 days of charts, and determine the conditions that those setups work in and the conditions that they don't. Uh, I think it's like Coach Paul, you just said, right? You did however many years of it. I did that last year. I think I did 300 days for three different markets with that opening range 3 minute trade, right? 300 days. And I just look at it. What did it do this day? What did it do this day? What did it do this day? It is the most crude process in the world. Can you use replay features and all this other shit to try to make it fancy? You could, but at the end of the day, you have to identify something you're trying to execute in the markets and see if there's an edge there by collecting data. Uh, can I do one example right now? Sure. 3 minute opening range. My strategy says I'm looking to take longs from a opening range when volume and price leave the range. So here's one. 3 minute opening range, volume and price left the range. This is a long trade. Where does my stop go? My stop goes under the low. Just going very basic here, and I'm looking for a 2-to-1 trade. Here's a 2-to-1. This one is a trade that when I'm taking my notes, this one worked out. Now I'm going to go to a random day. Let's just pick a random day on the calendar. Let's go to February. Is it going to let me go back that far? Awesome, it did. All right, so let's find the same 3 minute opening range. Here we go. Volume has to leave the range for the upside for me to take it. I'm buying somewhere off of here. I'm long. Stop goes below here. Can I get a 2-to-1? I don't get a 2-to-1.
Can you get an amen?
Can we get a like? Can we get some people to hit that?
By the way, can we get a like?
Hit that like button. Hit that like button for us. But yeah, it is as simple as this, guys. Right? Don't make it sound like this extreme complicated thing. Identify something that you want to execute repeatedly and just do that thing. Uh, I'm just analyzing. You can use the replay if you want to. I don't love the replay feature, but you can use it. I did it with some VIPs. They used it. Um, use whatever is going to help you come to those decisions. But yeah, the replay feature is valuable. There isn't one in Topstep X. You can use it in TradingView. Um, I can make my own replay feature. I'm gonna go bar by bar and be honest with the information. Right. The replay feature, Jen and John, what I will say will help you is if as long as you don't go 10x the speed, what it'll help you with is allowing the trades to develop, right? Because it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, this one worked out. This was a long and this was great. The one thing that we don't visualize sometimes and backtest is that this trade took an hour and a half to work out, right? So the once you start getting into the replay feature, and you have a strategy that you want to trade, if you actually want to sit there and trade it and get the screen time for an hour to sit through the trade, that's when it'll help you. But I wouldn't use that before you have a strategy that you have enough information on. All right. One of the first people to pronounce your name correctly. I could probably guess where you're from as well. I'm not going to do that. Anything else you got, Coach?
I just by the way, Heather, I'm the coach who says just trade one side. I hope that what's been helping you. I learned that from a guy named Peter Stottlemyre. Some of my worst trading days were trying to buy the low and selling the high, and getting spun around. If I'm going to trade, I'm going to try either buy it or sell it. It's a rare day. It's a rare day where I'll flip. And it has to be something that is in the data, not in my mind. So I'm glad to hear that. As we come to the end of the show, what do we have? A couple minutes left.
A couple minutes left.
All right. There was one other question. Where
Got one from Mike here.
Let's go.
How do you avoid a drawdown?
Well, I'm going to use Andrew's answer.
It was a great one.
But give it to him, Coach.
Don't trade. It's the easiest
And,
way to
and
avoid a drawdown, so don't trade. And that might seem like a, like this guy's not taking this question seriously, but that's legitimately it. There is no way to avoid a drawdown. They're going to happen. I think anytime you put a trade on, unless it immediately goes in your favor, uh, you're in a drawdown, right? You paid commissions to put on the trade. So I don't think you can avoid it, Mike. I think the better question there is how do you navigate a drawdown, uh, if you do have one, right? And how do you measure the drawdown? Go ahead, coach.
um, you know what'll help on that? Read, and we haven't mentioned that book in a long time. Best Loser Wins. There's no one that doesn't have a drawdown. It's how you handle them.
Yep.
So you can, because you're managing your account, you're not managing the market. So read that book. I can't say enough about it. That's how you handle drawdowns. You take good losses. When you back test, you get an idea of what you should you can handle. So learn that here's the bottom. Here's the fact. You're gonna go into a drawdown. The way because I've spun out of control numerous times when I was younger.
Mm,
So one way to control that is stop trading when you're down 12% of your equity. That's it. That's it. And that's big. Think about that.
12% is a lot.
Now we have in on the combines, what we kind of have to do it in this situation. But if you're taking 50%, it's way too much.
Yep.
I said 10 to 12% done. That's managing. So learn that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Chauncey, I'm going on vacation soon. Feel like I'm on a roll. Don't want to lose momentum. What do you guys do while on vacation? Lower your expectations. Appreciate your time off the charts. Maybe trading while you're on a roll has afforded you the ability to take time off the charts and enjoy your vacation. Uh, what I will say is don't ruin your vacation by trading. That I've done that before. I've done that before in the airport, placing a trade, thinking like, "Oh yeah, I can manage this trade on the airplane Wi-Fi," and it ends up being trash. And I land and I'm down money, starting the vacation before I went to dinner, before I bought a drink or whatever. It's not fun. Don't do that. Enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your time off. The markets are going to be here, and if they're not, we got bigger issues, and you might just want to stay on your vacation if that's the case. So, you can trade, maybe trade on the way home. Uh, maybe you run up a bill on vacation. You say, all right, maybe I'll recover some of that in the markets. Enjoy your time off. Go ahead, coach.
Okay, don't ever, don't. We just talked about getting your mindset and resting your body. Also,
Right.
resting your mind and your emotions. If you have to trade, then you're getting into gambling.
Yeah.
You know, real- the world still goes around the sun. You're on vacation. No one on it, you've heard of the saying, no one on their deathbed says, geez, I wish I would have worked more.
Right.
Enjoy life.
Yep.
Um, it's limited. So take time off. Most refreshed I've ever come was I was on an island of Cozumel, kind of removed. I didn't have cell phone, just on the beach, sailing, scuba diving, adventuring, having fun for 10 days. I came back and had the best year of my life. So
Amazing.
I hope that
That
helped
is
you.
amazing. Yeah, I got some trips planned for this summer. Uh, One of them I'm gonna completely disconnect, and I'm excited for it. I'm on it. I haven't taken a break like that in a while, and I can feel it. It's necessary. right? Just and it's not a long time, but you know, it'll be a great time to kind of refresh. Chauncey, you said I'll only trade my combine. I want to challenge you not to even do that.
Yep.
I want to challenge you to be able to have the discipline to say, I know the markets are moving. I'm a disciplined trader and I don't necessarily have to look at them right now. Well, how long are you going on vacation for? A week? I think that that helps you more than whatever progress you can make in that combine in that same amount of time. All
All
right.
right.
And
Well,
that, go ahead, coach.
with that said, let's get into our 3-day weekend here in the United States. And I want to remember, this is more than just a 3-day weekend. This is Memorial Day. Thanks to all you who have served, and especially the people who gave up their lives for our democracy, our country. Um, give that some thought this weekend. That's why we do it. And my greatest appreciation to those who have given their lives up.
Well said, Coach Paul. Well said. Ben, I promised you I was going to share this, and I forgot to get to it. So I'm gonna post the link to Ben's X account. I believe that's the Ben that's been on Top Step TV with me before. So shout out to you, Ben. But he goes in about process over profits in that tweet. Um, but back to getting to the weekend. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Do something fun. Be safe, and we will talk to you all next week. I do not believe Coach Hoop is doing a class today. Uh, Coach Hoop's in the chat; he can confirm that. But I believe Coach Ray and Coach Vince are off as well. No slow markets on Sunday. No opening call on Sunday. And we back on Topstep TV with Dakota on Monday night with slow markets. So I will talk to you all then. Enjoy your weekends, Coach. Go pour up a Guinness. Uh, we'll talk to you soon.
Maybe a rusty nail.
There we go. Have a good one.
Uh,
Andrew, you have a good one too. Bye.
Bye.